Welcome into Steelers Talk, Yinzers. My name is Jack Sperry. It's draft time, baby. I am so excited for the 2023 NFL Draft, and right now the Steelers are bringing in some players here on their top 30 draft visits. We're going to be going over every single player that right now it is confirmed that they are bringing in or have brought in already. But first, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter, guys. It's a great way to support me. It's a great way to support the channel. You get additional Steelers content on there, breaking news coverage, special announcements for Steelers Talk I put up on my Twitter. You're going to want to make sure you follow me. And then if you do, I will give you a shout out on next week's Steelers live show. So I'm at Jack_Sperry. Give me a follow today. All right, so before we start, these are just 11 names, right, guys? So if you're watching this and, maybe it's later in the day because we're going to do a cut on this and they've brought in somebody else, don't get mad at me, all right? We're recording this on Wednesday. They've just brought in 11 people so far, or that they've scheduled 11 people, but they have 30 people total that they can bring in. So if the person that you want the Steelers to draft isn't on this list, don't worry too much, okay? So this is just the early rounds here of people that are coming to visit the Steelers. Let's start with cornerbacks because we know how much the Steelers need to add a cornerback. Kelee Ringo from the Georgia Bulldogs has scheduled a visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers, a top 30 visit. 6'2", 210 pounds, is an absolute monster, man. Like, this guy is a freak athlete. He runs super fast. I think he ran sub 4.4 at the combine, too, at 210 pounds. This guy is a monster. The thing with Kelee Ringo, though, is that he doesn't have any sort of hip fluidity. He doesn't have short area quicks. And because of that, like, if he goes up against good route runners, he can get lost. In my opinion, Kelee Ringo is like a third or fourth round talent. Like, I think that with all the great cornerbacks in this year's draft class that can really play right away, Kelee Ringo is somebody that's going to need a little bit of work. And then even then, like, the non-fluid hips, the lack of short area quicks might end up killing him in the end. So I don't love that one there. But Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State weighs the same amount as me, man. It says on the screen there, 180. That's what it was listed at Mississippi State. He weighed in 165 pounds. Or 166, I should say, at the combine. And then at his pro day the other day, he weighed in at 170. That's how much I weigh, man. I talk about football on YouTube. This guy is trying to play football. I mean, that's a serious concern, guys. Seriously. Now, I will say that his weight doesn't affect his play. Like, he really does get his nose to the football. He tackles well. He's very aggressive. But at the NFL level, like, he's just going to get manhandled at that size. So he needs to get a little bit bigger. But, man, the ball production, six interceptions last year, which was tied for third in the country last year. This guy can really turn the ball over. And with the pass rush that the Steelers have, it is a match made in heaven for someone with this kind of instincts. I would say probably a day 2 pick is worth it for Emmanuel Forbes. Some people have him as a first-round prospect. I'm not going that far, especially in this year's draft class. And you got Tyreek Stevenson, who just had his pro day the other day. Ike Taylor, the Steelers scout, was running him through his drills. And now he's scheduled to come, and I think that he's a really good player, man. 6 foot, 214 pounds. He's a big boy, man, but he can move. He can move quite well. He's got much better hip fluidity than Kelee Ringo, and he's about at the same amount of poundage as Kelee Ringo. I think that this guy has the body type. He has the tape, too, to be a really, really good corner, not only right away in the league, but I think he could develop into a cornerback one, a true lockdown corner in this league someday. And I think that you could probably get him in the third round at this point. I think this guy is going to be an absolute steal. And if the Steelers can grab him somewhere in that day 2 range, they're going to be happy with their pick, in my opinion. So the Steelers are planning on taking a cornerback in round 2, in my opinion, not round 1. So I think the only way they take a corner in round 1 is all their favorite draft prospects are gone. All the offensive tackles are gone. Brian Branch is gone. Maybe even Jordan Addison's gone, right? I think that cornerback in the first round is going to be their last resort, and it's going to be for somebody like a Deonte Banks, Joey Porter Jr. If Devin Witherspoon falls to them at 17 somehow, I think they'll pull the trigger there. But like I say, guys, I think it's going to be round 2 unless A, all their top guys are gone, or B, there's a can't-miss prospect like Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon that makes it to you at number 17 overall. Otherwise, this is such a great cornerback class. You can get a great prospect on day 2. get some value there, get a different position there in round 1. But let me know in the comments section what you guys think. When will the Steelers draft a cornerback in this year's NFL draft? Type 1 for round 1 or type 2 if you think round 2. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So here's what's going to happen. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break your way here in a couple of seconds, just the way it works. Take advantage of that time by going to the comment section, finding the pinned comment. It'll be right there at the top, and answer this question. Another guy they brought in, offensive tackle here, DeJuan Jones. So he's the only offensive tackle that they're bringing in so far on their top 30 visits. DeJuan Jones, man, this guy is a freak of a human, man. He broke the record for wingspan at the NFL Combine at 6'8", 359 pounds. This guy is the Mount Everest of human beings. This guy is huge. And I just think that, you add him to the Steelers offense, and they're looking for a power run blocker in this offense. I think what you would probably do is you'd move Chukwuma Okorafor over to left tackle and maybe have him and Dan Moore Jr. battle it out. And then you have this guy leading the way on the power blocks there on the right side. And, this guy is hard to get around. This guy is hard to go through, which is really nice. The way that you beat this guy is through stunts, through finesse, that sort of stuff, which concerns me a little bit. But, man, he could be a really great fit for what the Pittsburgh Steelers want to do here. They're shifting to more of a power run scheme. Matt Canada has traditionally run more of a zone scheme, but after last year's success in the second half with Najee Harris running more power stuff, they brought in guys like Nate Herbig, Isaac Seumalo to kind of bolster that power run game. Chukwuma Okorafor is already big enough to play this scheme. Dan Moore Jr. might not be. So if you add DeJuan Jones, and it seems like the Steelers really like him, and Darnell Wright for that matter, you add a right tackle, I think that this power run game is going to be really nasty in 2023. And speaking of the offensive line, we got a couple more here. O'Cyrus Torrence, interior offensive lineman, probably going to go in the first round, arguably the best offensive guard, pure offensive guard in this year's draft class. Really good player. I don't know why the Steelers would consider taking him in the first round. I think, you got enough interior offensive linemen, if I'm being completely honest with you. James Daniels, Seumalo, Herbig, Mason Cole, Kevin Dotson can play if somebody gets hurt. I think that they're probably pretty good at that position. So, if he falls to the second round, maybe. But as a first-round guy, I don't buy O'Cyrus Torrence to the Steelers whatsoever. But he is a fantastic prospect. No sacks allowed in his time at Florida last year. Then you got Steve Avila, another guard. I don't understand why the Steelers are spending so much time looking at guards and centers. I think that you're pretty well set, but apparently the Steelers want a lot of depth on the interior of the offensive line. And, Steve Avila, really good player, probably going to go, I'd say early round 2 is probably around his stock, as at least of right now. But I think that he's a really good player, and, he's going to be a really solid pro. I just don't really see the need for the Steelers to go and get another guy like this. And then Mason Cole, man. John Michael Schmitz, the replacement for Michael Cole, bringing in somebody that's going to be your day one starter if you draft him. John Michael Schmitz, man, really good player. From the Minnesota Golden Gophers. He's the best center prospect in this year's draft class. And, there's a lot of people that watch this show that get in the comment section and say, Jack, why would the Steelers replace Mason Cole? He was really good last year. He was pretty good. He was about league average last year. And he's more of a zone guy. He's more of a smaller, athletic type center that doesn't really affect the line of scrimmage too much. And it looks like that they might be getting somebody like a John Michael Schmitz, who's 320 pounds, that can really deliver some punishment. I think that with Mike Tomlin talking about how it's going to be an open competition in camp, and then they're shifting to the power run game, I just think that a smaller guy like Mason Cole isn't going to be among that top 5 group of players when it's all said and done. You take a look at the Steelers' offensive line depth chart. We've taken a look at this quite a bit today. But, I look at Mason Cole, who's under 300 pounds, and, he's not as good of a power blocker as James Daniels. And especially if they bring in a guy like John Michael Schmitz, I just don't know where Mason Cole fits on this offensive line. Now, I think Mason Cole is a fine center. He's a good player. He's a starter-capable player in the National Football League. And for a team like Minnesota or, somewhere that runs a true zone system, he would be a really good center. But for a team like the Steelers that are trying to get nasty, that are trying to really try to impose their will on teams, I just don't think Mason Cole is big enough to be that guy. And because of that, because I think that the offensive line on the interior is good right now, they should prioritize the outsides. Last year, the big problem for the Steelers was not the interior of the offensive line. It was the tackles. Chukwuma Okorafor was the lowest graded player on the offensive line last year, according to Pro Football Focus. Most people agree Dan Moore Jr. isn't the future at the position. I think that you need to address offensive tackle in this draft before interior offensive lineman, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Should the Steelers draft another interior offensive lineman this year? Type Y if you think yes, or type N if you think no. Another player that the Steelers have brought in that kind of a bit of a head scratcher for me, Tuli Tuipulotu from USC. I really like him as a player. I want to preface this by saying that he's a really, really good player. But at 6'4", 290 pounds, he's a true defensive end. He might even play 5 technique, and I just don't see where he fits with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You re-signed Larry Ogunjobi to a multiple-year contract. He's your 5 technique. You got your starting outside linebackers in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, and at 290 pounds, I don't think Tuli is the type of guy that can go ahead and play an outside linebacker position. I think he's either got to. I think he's a true defensive end in a 4-3 system or a 5 technique in a 3-4 system. And I just don't see the need for a guy like this on the Steelers roster personally. But he is a really good player. So it's always great to add good players to your roster. But I also think that it's important to go fill some of the needs and holes on your roster. Next guy up for the guys that have visited with the Steelers, Jervin Dexter out of Florida, nose tackle. At 6'6", 312 pounds, man, this guy is immensely talented. If you give this guy a call on draft night, you're going to be really excited about this guy. He's got incredible athleticism, good size, great strength. He's got pass rushing upside. He can be a run stuffer. He can be a true one-technique nose tackle if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there's a lot of reason to be excited about this guy. And it seems like Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan and company, they're very excited about this guy. Every step of the way, if they have had an opportunity to meet with Jervin Dexter, they have taken it. They have met with him multiple times. They seem extremely interested in this kid, and I can definitely see why. Now, he's still a bit raw. He's definitely gonna need a little bit of time. So if you want to go get a guy like this, I think the smart move is to go and get like a Linval Joseph or an A'Shawn Robinson or a Poona Ford in free agency. Somebody that can be a little bit more of a bridge nose tackle, so that this guy can learn the ropes. You don't have to throw him out there right away. I think this guy's a massively talented guy that could be one of the best nose tackles in the National Football League someday. But he definitely does come with risk, and because of that, he's probably going to be a late day 2 or early day 3 prospect. Like this video right now if you want a free and easy way to support the channel, guys. I would really appreciate it. What you do when you click that thumbs up icon is you tell the YouTube algorithm to push this video out to other Steelers fans that might enjoy this content. So if you want to help if you're already subscribed and you want to help us grow here at Steelers Talk, do your part right now. Click that like button right now. All right, now let's get into a wide receiver, the only receiver that has gotten a top 30 visit for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, and that's Jonathan Mingo. He's expected to be a late-round, big slot receiver, and man, this guy is big. 6'2", 225 pounds, an absolute monster in the run game, blocking-wise. I think that, like I've said all offseason, guys, when you have a guy like Calvin Austin III as your current slot receiver, somebody that's 5'9", just over 162 pounds, the Steelers traditionally, they want bigger slot receivers. You look at Juju Smith-Schuster. You look at Chase Claypool, right? This is a team that really wants these nasty guys in the slot that can really run block. And now that the Steelers are shifting to more of a power run blocking scheme, I think that takes it to a whole nother level. So, Jonathan Mingo is one of those guys, not a great route runner right now. He's a bit slow. But he's got good hands, in my opinion. I think that he's a good player. And I think in the Steelers system, I think he would be a match made in heaven. If you can get him like in the 7th round maybe, or maybe you trade back some point during the draft, you get him in like the 5th or 6th round, I think that would be a great fit for the Steelers. Another option is Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. The Steelers attended his pro day, and we're watching him very closely. Then finally here, Daniel Scott, a safety, a late-round safety prospect from the University of California. And, 6'2", 215 pounds. If this guy plays in the league, he's going to be a strong safety. And right now we know the Steelers are looking for another safety, whether it be in free agency or in the draft. I'm going to be very interested to see how they address that need, because if you don't get a strong safety now, like we know they're taking one in the draft, and that might lead to some desperation. But Daniel Scott is somebody, he's going to be a late round guy. It's kind of weird that they're spending a top 30 visit on a guy like this, but it seems like they're pretty interested in him. So keep your eye on Daniel Scott as a 7th round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's going to be it for today's show. Really appreciate everybody that made it to the end of the video. You are a real one if you made it. And if you enjoy the content here, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We are the fastest growing Steelers channel here on YouTube. We've added almost 2,000 subscribers in the last month alone, which is absolutely fantastic. Help be a part of the movement right now by clicking that subscribe button for me right now.